This is Goku Sun DBZ, and welcome back for the first of two top 10 lists for 2017, since we are in the last couple of days of this year. This list will be the top 10 movies of 2017. Now, these will be my own personal picks of movies I thoroughly enjoyed. There may be a few movies that are missing on this list of movies I may have just not seen, so keep that in mind when I start this list. First, we'll start with number 10, and like I used to do, honorable mentions before number 1. Coming in at number 10. This would be the last of the trilogy, and of course, main character being voiced by Andy Serkis, and of course that being Caesar. So obviously, number 10 goes to War for the Planet of the Apes from Fox. This movie was very enjoyable, and I do like the supposed villain. I mean, I say supposed villain because really, he's fighting for really more or less the survival of mankind, so it's obvious. Which is why I say sort of villain. But overall, another incredible job by Andy Serkis. The CG on, of course, Caesar, superb. That's one thing. The graphics of the apes are just incredibly well done and executed. That's all I can say. Andy Serkis did another amazing job, once again with motion capture, and really does bring out the power of the character of Caesar in this series. Coming in number 9 as a surprise movie. I was crossing my fingers this movie would be good. I still was hesitant, though I enjoyed M. Night Shyamalan's last movie being The Visit. Coming in at number 9 is his newest film, and that of course being Split. Another very well done, and I'm happy to actually have an M. Night Shyamalan movie on my top 10 list. I'm glad Split made the cut. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. The suspense was well executed. And not to mention, of course, the casting for the movie was also a big importance to this film. But I'm glad to see M. Night Shyamalan is making a comeback. He was a director I really thoroughly enjoyed in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then kind of went off the rails. Really, I felt like Lady in the Water, and after that went off. But I'm glad to see M. Night Shyamalan back, and glad to see one of his movies making my top 10 list, because I thoroughly enjoyed Split. With that said, number 8. Of course, one of the newest installments to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Coming at number 8 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Another well-done movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it, though I will say it doesn't come nearly close to where the original Guardians of the Galaxy is with me. I just love Guardians of the Galaxy 1. It's just incredible. The second one was still really good. The soundtrack was good, of course, really good music. Not as good as the original, but it's going to be kind of hard to outdo the first one. But James Gunn, once again, did an awesome job with this movie. Well executed, well directed. I have mixed feelings for the bad guy. Well, technically, yeah, I guess somewhat two bad guys. But I loved how they focused and gave a lot of development to the character, of course, Yondu, which was a cool character, I will say. Coming in at number 7 from Disney, and I was surprised that this actually made my top 10 list, not to mention even managed to make it to number 7 on my list, which is kind of awesome, because the last movie was kind of a disappointment to me overall. I still enjoyed it for what it was, a popcorn flick, but not as good. But the 5th movie in the series, I'm glad to see this one on my top 10. And at number 7 from Disney is Pirates of the Caribbean. And of course, that being Dead Men Tell No Tales. I genuinely enjoyed this movie. I think one of the reasons this ended up making my top list, even to number 7, is because I thoroughly enjoyed the casting of the main bad guy. When you have a Spaniard, but he's very much, of course, anti-pirate. He wants to kill all pirates, obviously, his character. And the post-credits scene was actually really cool. Spoiler alert, you see what looks to be a shadow of Davy Jones. So all I can figure is the last movie, supposedly the 6th one, will be the final film. And supposedly it's not supposed to revolve around Jack Sparrow. It's supposed to revolve around Will Turner, and apparently, I'm assuming, because the post-credits scene, Davy Jones. But with that said, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was glad to see a Pirates of the Caribbean movie I had fun with again. I enjoyed at World's End, unlike a lot of people. But Stranger Tides was one I was kind of about. But I definitely enjoyed the 5th one, and I was happy to see that I got in good again with Pirates. I'm glad to see at least it's improved from the last film. Coming in at number 6 is a film I expected to be my number 1, but after seeing it now twice, it's number 6 and it's not going to make it even into my top 5, which is kind of a disappointment because 2015, 2016, the other films made number 1. Yeah. Coming in at number 6 is Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. It's kind of a shame that Episode 8 didn't even crack my top 5, but I have some major pet peeves about that film, and eventually I may do a review overall and explain a lot of the issues I have with the film for the most part. Coming in at number 5 from the Walt Disney Company is the live-action adaptation of Beauty and the Beast, which I genuinely enjoyed. Some of the musical, of course, stuff wasn't as good as the animated. It's because they wanted to use those actors' real singing voices. So, of course, Emma Watson isn't exactly up to par with, like, the animated, but that's because you have world caliber singers do the anime of Beauty and the Beast, so it's going to be kind of hard to really do that. Though I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I liked it gave actual backstory and actual clips instead of just stained glass windows with how everyone was transformed, and also other stuff into characters. I like that they showed more backstory into, of course, the Beast. But you also got a little bit more backstory into the character Belle as well. So I did appreciate that, and I loved, of course, who they casted as Gaston. He was not big and muscular, that's fine, but I will say, I enjoyed him, and he actually has a really good singing voice. So I definitely was fine with their casting as Gaston. He was definitely one of my favorite parts. I love the CG design of the Beast as well. The music numbers, I am glad that they retained and kept most of the original musical numbers from the animated movie, but of course they actually added some new ones. And there's definitely a length difference, but that makes sense because of actually having backstory and stuff added to better well flesh out the characters compared to previous installments. Coming in at number 4 is the only tie on this list, interestingly enough. It's between 2 comic book movies for number 4 slot. One movie I was not expecting to enjoy as much as I actually did, and that being Wonder Woman is tied at 4th place. I'm actually surprised at how much I enjoyed this film, honestly. Tying with it was, but before I mention the other one, tied with, I love that it was a period piece for the First World War. Rather than World War II, which has pretty much always been done, it was kind of refreshing to have the First World War time period rather than the Second World War, because we always get tons of that stuff and everything. Tied with it is, of course, connected to the MCU / Sony. And, of course, tie at number 4 is Spider-Man Homecoming. Awesome job Tom Holland did. I will say, superb. As Peter Parker, he is the perfect balance of Peter Parker and Spider-Man characters. As one of my biggest problems with Tobey Maguire is that I felt he wasn't a very good Spider-Man. He was a good Peter Parker. And Andrew Garfield was a superb, amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, pun intended. And thoroughly enjoyed it, honestly, for the most part. But I think Tom Holland's the perfect balance between the two, but I dare say still, as actual Spider-Man, I feel Andrew Garfield is still the best. He still has set the highest bar when it comes to the actual Spider-Man character. But one of the things I liked more about this is, of course, the introduction as a mentor figure, Tony Stark Iron Man, which is kind of cool and refreshing to add a new feel and new elements to the franchise. I do like that. Coming in number 3 is, I feel, one of the most underrated movies of this entire year. And coming at number 3 is from one of my personal top 5 favorite movie directors of all time, Ridley Scott. And that is Alien Covenant. Unlike most people, I thoroughly loved Alien Covenant. I enjoyed it. It is superb. It did an awesome job connecting Prometheus to aliens. And yeah, to some wondering, I'm a big fan of Prometheus. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I liked it. It was one of my favorite movies of the year it came out. So, if you don't like Prometheus, it's my opinion, so deal with it. But yeah, and I think Michael Fassbender did a superb job as always with this film, just like he did a great job, but he brought much more in this film, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'll get ready. Number 2 is a surprise in my top 10 favorite movies of all time, the original miniseries. So that may already give a clue what number 2 is. And that is, I think, the best quality overall adaptation off of the Stephen King novel of all time. And that is coming at number 2, It, Part 1. Stephen King's It. I love this movie. I saw this movie 3 times in theater. If that says anything of how much I thoroughly enjoyed it. Coming in number 1 favorite film of 2017. First honorable mentions, though. The Lego Batman movie. Annabelle Creation, which was a surprise one I enjoyed. Now 3 dishonorable mentions. Rings. Resident Evil The Final Chapter, and the worst of all, Transformers The Last Night. Number 1 favorite movie of the year? Logan. Hands down, my all-time favorite movie of this year. Easy. Maybe even my top 10 favorite comic book movies of all time. That's how much I love this film. And I love the whole Western atmosphere and tone to it. Patrick Stewart did a superb job. And as always, and I loved introducing young X-23 was also pretty awesome. And I'm looking forward to, hopefully, a future of this young lady as X-23. We shall see, though. But I'll see you all next time. I hope you enjoyed the music in the background, fellow Whovians. See you all next time for Top 10 Favorite Games of 2017. So until then, same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.